The crystalline spires of Vex Station scraped against the artificial atmosphere, like claws reaching for escape. Maya Chen stood in the registration hall, hands shoved deep into her jacket pockets, watching aliens of 17 different species shuffle nervously through security checkpoints. Every single one of them looked terrified. Good. They should be. The Crucible wasn't just a test. It was an execution method dressed up as an evaluation, a cosmic joke that had claimed 3,000 lives in the past decade alone. The Galactic Coalition had designed it that way on purpose, making sure that only the absolute best, the most ruthless, the nearly superhuman could pass. And humans? Humans were explicitly, repeatedly, enthusiastically told they need not apply. Next, droned the Vekian clerk, his 6 eyes blinking in sequence like dying stars. His voice carried the kind of boredom that came from processing corpses disguised as candidates. Maya stepped forward. The clerk's eyes focused on her, all 6 at once, which she knew meant surprise. Species? Human. A long pause. 2 of his eyes swiveled to check a datapad. Humans are Category 7 restricted. You cannot register for the Crucible. Maya smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. It was a smile of someone who'd spent 6 months fighting bureaucracy, pulling strings, calling in favors, and occasionally blackmailing minor officials. It was a smile of someone who'd lost everything and had absolutely nothing left to lose. Check again. Line 47, subsection Theta. Amendment filed by Ambassador Kelso 3 months ago. Humans are now permitted, provided we sign the extended liability waiver. The clerk's mandibles clicked in irritation. He checked. His posture shifted from bored to concerned. This waiver indicates the Coalition accepts zero responsibility for your death, dismemberment, psychological dissolution, temporal fracturing, or molecular dissociation. Sound like a regular Tuesday. Where do I sign? You realize that no human has ever attempted the Crucible? The mortality rate for species of your durability classification is 98.4%. The survival rate is not even 2%. It is 1.6%. The remaining deaths are classified as outcomes too unusual to categorize. Maya leaned forward on the counter. Her voice dropped to something quiet and dangerous. My brother was on the merchant vessel Prosperity. Perhaps you heard about it? The one that got caught in crossfire during the Dracian conflict? The Coalition said it was unavoidable. Collateral damage. They paid our family 40,000 credits, which I'm told is the going rate for accidentally vaporizing human civilians. She pulled out a credit chip and placed it on the counter. That's 40,000 credits. I'm using their blood money to enter their death trap. Now, are you going to let me register, or do I need to have another conversation with Ambassador Kelso? Because I promise you, clerk, he's way less pleasant than I am. The Vekian stared at her. All 6 eyes conveyed the same message. This human is insane. He processed her registration. 15 minutes later, Maya stood in the preparation chamber with 19 other candidates. A towering Kraloth warrior checked his fusion gauntlets. A Cytherian neural mage meditated in the corner, her consciousness visibly rippling through spectrums Maya's eyes couldn't quite process. A pair of Relaxian twins, both covered in ceremonial combat scars, whispered battle prayers to gods Maya had never heard of. And then there was her, 5'6", 130 pounds, wearing cargo pants and a tank top, carrying nothing but a water bottle and attitude. A holographic proctor materialized in the center of the chamber. It wore the shape of something vaguely humanoid, but kept shifting, as if it couldn't decide what floor would be most intimidating. Candidates, it began, its voice reverberating through dimensions Maya couldn't see. You stand at the threshold of the Crucible, the most challenging evaluation in known space. Inside, you will face scenarios designed to test your combat ability, problem-solving, mental fortitude, and survival instinct. The test adapts to your performance. There is no time limit. There is no outside assistance. There is only completion or death. The Kraloth warrior grunted approvingly. Maya rolled her eyes. 17,412 individuals have entered the Crucible. 283 have emerged alive. Of those, only 97 passed. The Crucible does not care about your species, your reputation, or your training. It cares only whether you are worthy. The proctor's gaze, if something without real eyes could be said to gaze, fixed on Maya. Human candidate, you've been flagged for special notation. Your species has never produced a candidate before. Command wants to offer you one final opportunity to withdraw. 20 pairs of alien eyes turned toward her. Some looked curious. Most looked amused. The Krolov warrior actually laughed, a sound like grinding boulders. Maya met the proctor's non-gaze without flinching. I'm not here to make friends. I'm not here to prove anything to anyone except myself. Open the door. Your death will be recorded as voluntary. Great. Put that on my tombstone. Are we doing this or not? The proctor dissolved without another word. A massive circular door began to iris open, revealing a corridor that seemed to stretch into infinity. The walls pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that hurt to look at directly. One by one, the candidates entered. The Verlaxian twins went first, moving in perfect synchronization. The Krolith warrior stomped in like he was personally going to fistfight the universe. The neural mage floated in, her form becoming translucent as she crossed the threshold. Maya went last. As she stepped through, she heard the door seal behind her with a finality that would have scared her 6 months ago. Now she was too angry to be scared. The corridor shifted. Reality bent. Maya's stomach lurched as the space around her compressed, expanded, and reorganized itself according to rules that physics back home would have found deeply offensive. When the world solidified, she stood in a vast arena. The ground was obsidian glass, perfectly smooth and reflective. The sky was a swirling mass of colors that didn't have names in any human language. Floating platforms drifted in lazy circles overhead. And in the distance, massive structures that might have been towers or might have been creatures rose against the horizon. A voice spoke directly into her mind, bypassing her ears entirely. It felt like ice water being poured directly onto her brain. Scenario 1. Combat evaluation. Defeat your opponent or be eliminated. The obsidian ground split apart. Something rose from beneath. It was 12 feet tall, covered in armor that looked grown rather than forged, and carried a weapon that was part blade, part energy cannon, and part nightmare. Its face was a smooth expanse of black metal, with a single red eye that tracked her movement with predatory focus. The Krolith warrior from the preparation chamber would have charged it head-on. The neural mage would have tried to disrupt its consciousness. The Verlaxian twins would have coordinated a flanking maneuver. Maya looked at the monster, looked at the arena around her, and started laughing. Not nervous laughter, not hysterical laughter. The genuine, delighted laughter of someone who just figured out the punchline to a joke nobody else understood. The combat drone paused, apparently confused by this response. It tilted its head, red eye dimming slightly. Maya stopped laughing, wiped her eyes, and spoke to the empty air. You know what the problem is with designing a test for aliens? You assume everyone thinks like you do. You assume everyone values the same things. Combat prowess, mental fortitude, survival instinct. She started walking, not toward the drone, but perpendicular to it. But humans? We're pattern recognition machines. We're the species that got bored and invented Sudoku. We look at everything as a puzzle to solve. And this, she gestured at the entire arena. This is the most obvious puzzle I've ever seen. The drone moved to intercept her. Maya didn't run. She walked to a specific point on the obsidian floor, knelt down, and pressed her palm flat against the surface. Nothing happened. The drone raised its weapon. Maya pressed her palm down again, this time exactly 3 inches to the left. The entire arena shuddered. The obsidian floor rippled like water. The combat drone froze mid-motion, its red eye flickering, and then it vanished. The swirling sky above stabilized into a simple blue gradient. The floating platforms dissolved. The distant towers collapsed into pixels and disappeared. Silence. The voice returned to her mind, but this time it sounded different. Uncertain. Candidate Maya Chen. Explain your actions. Maya stood up, dusted off her hands, and looked at where she assumed cameras were recording everything. The floor is a pressure-sensitive control interface. The patterns in the bioluminescent walls during the entrance corridor were a cipher key. The combat drone wasn't a test. It was misdirection. The real test was figuring out that the entire arena is a simulation running on predictable algorithms, and the shutdown sequence was hidden in plain sight for anyone smart enough to read the room, instead of fighting what was in it. She paused. Also, the red eye on the drone blinked in binary, while it was tracking me. It was literally telling me where the shutdown panel was located. You guys aren't subtle. Another long pause. No candidate has ever solved Scenario 1 without engaging in combat. Yeah, well, no candidate has ever been human before. We cheat. It's kind of our thing. The arena dissolved entirely. Maya found herself standing in a small white room with a single door. The voice spoke one more time. Proceed to Scenario 2. Maya walked to the door, but before opening it, she turned back to face the empty room. Hey, quick question. How many scenarios are there? That information is restricted. Right. Cool. Just so you know, I'm gonna break every single one of them. She opened the door. On the other side was chaos. A massive chamber filled with what looked like a three-dimensional maze suspended in zero gravity. Platforms rotated on impossible axes. Energy barriers flickered in patterns that would have given mathematicians seizures. In the distance, she could see other candidates struggling through their own versions of hell. The Vorlaxian twins were fighting something with too many teeth. The neural mage was trapped in what looked like a recursive thought loop, her body cycling through the same 3 seconds over and over. The Crawleth warrior was punching a wall that regenerated faster than he could damage it. And Maya? Maya looked at the chaos, pulled out her water bottle, took a long drink, and started looking for patterns. Because if there was one thing humans were really, truly exceptional at, it was finding the cheat codes and systems that thought they were uncheatable. She smiled again. This was going to be fun. The zero-gravity maze stretched out like a fevered dream designed by a sadistic mathematician. Platforms spun on 3 axes simultaneously. Energy barriers phased in and out of existence on rhythms that seemed random, and the whole structure kept reconfiguring itself every 47 seconds. Maya had counted. Most candidates were trying to navigate through it the intended way, timing their jumps, calculating trajectories, using whatever species-specific abilities they possessed to traverse the deadly obstacle course. The Crawleth warrior had given up punching walls and was now attempting to use his fusion gauntlets to propel himself between platforms. It wasn't going well. She watched him miscalculate and slam face first into an energy barrier. The impact sent him spinning off into a section of the maze that looked specifically designed to cause maximum humiliation. She almost felt bad for him. Almost. The neural mage had finally broken free from her thought loop and was trying to phase through solid matter. That worked right up until she hit a platform made of psionic-resistant alloy, which apparently existed specifically to ruin her day. Scenario 2, the voice announced unnecessarily. Navigation and spatial reasoning evaluation. Reach the exit point before structural collapse. Structural collapse? Maya looked around more carefully. Sure enough, distant sections of the maze were beginning to disintegrate, dissolving into streams of particles that got sucked away into nothing. The collapse was advancing slowly but steadily, a wave of destruction rolling toward the center, where everyone was struggling. Most candidates immediately panicked and started moving faster, more recklessly. 3 aliens she didn't recognize from the preparation chamber attempted a desperate leap across a massive gap. 2 of them made it. The third didn't, and Maya watched dispassionately as they fell into void below and simply ceased to exist. Eliminated. The Crucible's polite word for killed. Maya, however, didn't move. She floated in place, having grabbed onto a small stationary platform, and just observed. Her eyes tracked the rotating platforms, the phasing barriers, the waste sections reconfigured. She watched the pattern of destruction advancing, noted its speed, calculated angles, and then she started laughing again. "Oh, you magnificent bastards," she said to nobody. "You absolute artists of psychological warfare." She pushed off from her platform, but not toward the exit. She moved perpendicular to where everyone else was desperately fleeing, heading directly toward a section of the maze that looked completely impassable. Energy barriers formed a solid wall. Platforms rotated so fast they blurred, and the whole area was about 6 minutes away from total disintegration. A Drellian candidate, Some kind of reptilian species with excellent peripheral vision saw her trajectory and shouted a warning in broken galactic common. Wrong way. Death there. Exit opposite. Maya ignored them. She threaded between two rotating platforms, used one hand to vault off a third, and grabbed onto an energy barrier that wasn't quite solid. Her fingers found purchase on a section that was flickering between states, existing and not existing in rapid succession. It hurt, like grabbing onto frozen fire. But she held on. The pattern was clear now. The maze wasn't actually a maze. It was a shell game, a confidence trick scaled up to architectural proportions. Everyone was being herded toward what looked like an exit, but that exit was a long route, designed to take maximum time and ensure maximum casualties when the structural collapse caught up. The real exit, the one that would actually register as completion, was hidden in the section everyone was running away from, hidden behind barriers that looked impassable but had synchronized gaps in their phase cycles, hidden at the end of a path that looked like certain death but was actually the safest route because the structural collapse wasn't random at all. It was propagating from the false exit backward. The destruction was the guidance system. Maya timed her next move carefully. The energy barrier phased out. She released and grabbed a passing platform. It rotated, nearly throwing her off, but she adjusted her grip and rode it through a complete revolution. At the apex, she let go, sailing through the air toward a section that was already starting to disintegrate. The Drellian candidates screamed something that was probably their species' version of, "I told you so." Maya passed through the dissolving section, half a second before it fully collapsed. The exit portal materialized directly in front of her, a simple ring of light that had been hidden behind false geometry the entire time. She passed through it. The white room again. The voice returned, and this time it definitely sounded irritated. "Candidate Maya Chen, you continue to subvert intended challenge parameters." "That's not my problem," Maya said, catching her breath. "You built a test. I'm taking it. Not my fault your test has more holes than a space station after a meteor strike. The Crucible adapts. Scenario 3 will account for your problem-solving approach. Looking forward to it." The next door opened, and Maya stepped through without hesitation. This time, she found herself in what looked like a command center during a crisis. Holographic displays showed star systems under attack, ships broadcasting distress signals, civilian populations being evacuated from 3 planets simultaneously. A countdown timer in the corner showed 18 minutes remaining until something labeled critical cascade failure. A dozen empty seats surrounded a central control hub. Multiple scenarios played out in real time across the displays, each one requiring immediate attention, each one leading to catastrophic outcomes if ignored. The voice delivered its explanation. Scenario 3. Command evaluation. You are the ranking officer of a coalition fleet. 3 systems are under simultaneous attack. You have resources to fully protect only one. Partial protection of all 3 will result in total loss across all systems. Choose. Maya stared at the displays. System Epsilon had 4 million civilians. System Gamma had critical military infrastructure. System Zeta had a colony of genetically unique organisms that couldn't survive anywhere else in the galaxy. Classic trolley problem, scaled up to genocidal proportions. She sat down at the central control hub and pulled up the detailed readouts. Her fingers flew across the holographic interface, accessing data streams, reviewing fleet compositions, checking response times. The countdown ticked away. 17 minutes. Most candidates would agonize over this decision. The Crucible was probably recording their stress responses, measuring how they handled impossible choices, evaluating whether they'd sacrifice the many to save the few, or vice versa. Maya spent 40 seconds reviewing the data. Then she started rerouting power systems. "What are you doing?" the voice asked, which was the first time it had shown anything resembling curiosity. "Changing the question," Maya replied, not looking up from her work. She shut down non-essential systems across all 3 defensive fleets. Life support stayed at minimal sustainable levels. Recreation decks went dark. Everything that wasn't critical to immediate survival got stripped for power. She redirected those energy reserves into the FDL drives and shield generators. Then she did something the scenario clearly hadn't anticipated. She ordered all 3 fleets to converge on System Epsilon, the most densely populated target. Alarms immediately started blaring. The holographic displays flashed red with warnings. Abandoning defensive positions. Multiple systems unprotected. Violation of strategic doctrine. Maya ignored them. She calculated jump coordinates, synchronized the 3 fleets' arrival times, and executed the maneuver. All 3 fleets dropped out of FDL and System Epsilon simultaneously. The enemy, force there, would have been prepared to overwhelm a single defensive fleet, suddenly found itself outnumbered 3-1. Maya didn't even let them react. She ordered immediate weapons-free engagement and had to combine fleet glass the enemy position in under 90 seconds. Then, before the enemy forces and the other 2 systems could reposition, she split her combined fleet and performed simultaneous micro-jumps to systems Gamma and Zeta. The enemy ships that were still in attack positions, not defense, expecting easy targets. They got massacred. Total elapsed time, 11 minutes, 14 seconds. All 3 systems saved. 0 civilian casualties. Enemy forces eliminated. The holographic scenario froze. The countdown timer stopped at 6 minutes. 46 seconds remaining. Silence. That was not one of the acceptable solutions, the voice finally said. Was it against the rules? Maya asked, leaning back in the chair. No. Then it's an acceptable solution. You said I was the ranking officer. You gave me command authority. I used it. The goal was to prevent civilian casualties and protect strategic assets. I did that. The fact that your scenario assumed I'd play by conventional strategic doctrine is, again, not my problem. More silence. Maya could practically feel the Crucible's AI trying to figure out what to do with her. Scenario 4. How many of these are there? Maya asked. That information remains restricted. Cool. Just checking whether you're going to eventually run out of ways to try to kill me. The command center dissolved. Maya found herself standing on a cliff overlooking an endless ocean. The sky was the color of old bruises, and the water looked thick, viscous, wrong. In the distance, something massive moved beneath the surface. A single boat waited at the cliff's edge. Next to it stood a figure, the neural mage from the preparation chamber. Except she looked wrong. Her eyes were vacant, and her body moved with the jerky imprecision of a puppet with tangled strings. Scenario 4, the voice announced. Psychological evaluation. Survival requires cooperation. Your companion has been compromised by hostile influence. You must reach the island before the entity beneath the water surfaces. Your companion will attempt to prevent this. The neural mage turned toward Maya. Her mouth opened, and something that wasn't quite language poured out, a sound that made Maya's teeth ache and her vision blur at the edges. Great, Maya muttered. Zombie space mage. Just what I needed today. The compromised mage raised one hand. Reality around her fingers started to bend, space itself twisting into shapes that hurt to perceive. Maya did the only sensible thing. She ran directly at her. The mage, clearly expecting Maya to flee or defend herself, hesitated for just a fraction of a second. That was all Maya needed. She ducked under the reality warping effect, drove her shoulder into the mage's midsection, and used momentum to shove both of them off the cliff. They fell together, tumbling through the air. The ocean rushed up to meet them. Maya grabbed the mage's arm, spun the midfall, and positioned the compromised alien beneath her. They hit the water, mage first. Maya immediately released her, kicked hard, and swam for the surface. Behind her, below her, something vast stirred. The water began to churn. Maya broke the surface, gasping. The boat was 30 feet away, already drifting. She swam for it with everything she had, expecting at any moment to feel something grab her leg and pull her down into the depths. She reached the boat, hauled herself over the side, and collapsed on the deck just as something broke the water behind her. She didn't look back. She grabbed the oars and started rowing. The island materialized out of the bruised sky ahead, a small rocky outcrop with a single glowing portal at its peak. Maya rowed. Her shoulders screamed. Her lungs burned. Behind her, the ocean erupted as something massive surfaced, but she didn't look, didn't slow, just kept rowing. The boat hit the island shore. Maya abandoned it, scrambled over rocks, and threw herself through the portal. White room, heavy breathing, the taste of salt water and adrenaline. That was cold, she told the voice. Psychological evaluation requires stress. You mind-controlled another candidate and used her as bait. That's not stress, that's torture. She was not harmed. The entity was simulation. The compromised state was temporary neural scripting. Still cold. You sacrificed companion without hesitation. I saved both of us. I knew the fall wouldn't kill her. I knew the entity would focus on the nearest target. And I knew she'd be released from your neural scripting once the scenario ended. Basic problem solving. Most candidates attempt to save their compromised companions. Most candidates aren't human. The final door opened before she was ready. Maya stood, still dripping seawater that probably wasn't real, and walked through. The last chamber was empty, just a vast white space that stretched in every direction. No obstacles, no enemies, no puzzles, just Maya and the silence. She stood there for a full minute before speaking. Okay, I'll bite. What's the test? There is no test, the voice replied. Scenario 5 is completion. You have solved, subverted, or bypassed every previous evaluation. The Crucible has no further challenges to present. Maya blinked. So I pass. No. Her stomach dropped. Explain. To pass the Crucible, a candidate must complete all scenarios as designed. You have broken fundamental rules of 4 out of 5 scenarios. Your solutions, while effective, demonstrate a fundamental rejection of the evaluation's core principles. So you're saying I beat your test, but I beat it wrong? Correct. Maya felt fury rising in her chest, hot and familiar. The same fury that had carried her through 6 months of bureaucracy. The same fury that had gotten her into this nightmare in the first place. Let me tell you something about humans, she said, her voice deadly quiet. We're not the strongest. We're not the fastest. We're not the smartest. And we're definitely not the most psychically gifted. But we're the most stubborn species in the galaxy, and we got a special talent for taking your rules and finding every single loophole, exploit, and workaround that exists. She took a step forward, even though there was nothing to step toward. My brother died because the Coalition decided his life was worth 40,000 credits. You want to fail me because I didn't follow your arbitrary rules? Fine, but you and I both know I beat every challenge you threw at me. You can call it cheating. I call it winning. The silence stretched out for a long, terrible moment. Then the voice spoke again, but different. Multiple voices now layered, as if something vast was paying attention. Candidate Maya Chen, the Crucible recognizes your completion of all scenarios regardless of methodology. However, the Coalition Council must deliberate on whether your results qualify as a passing evaluation. How long will that take? 7 seconds. Maya laughed, because of course it will be 7 seconds. The universe apparently had a sense of humor. She counted them off in her head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Deliberation complete. Your evaluation is ruled as pass with notation. You are the first human to complete the Crucible. You are also the first candidate of any species to complete it in under 17 minutes. The white space dissolved. Maya found herself back in the registration hall, standing at the same counter where she'd started. The Vechian clerk stared at her with all 6 eyes wide. The entire hall had gone silent. Every alien present, candidates and staff alike, was staring at her. Maya looked down at herself, still dripping not quite real seawater, still wearing the same cargo pants and tank top, still just a human who'd gotten angry enough to break an unbreakable test. She turned to the clerk, smiled that same not nice smile from earlier, and said, "I'd like my completion certificate, please." The clerk processed it with shaking manipulators. Maya took the certificate, tucked it into her jacket pocket, and walked toward the exit. As she passed it all, the crowd parted automatically. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Just before she reached the door, she turned back and addressed the room at large. By the way, the Crucible is beatable. You just have to stop playing by their rules and start playing by yours. Then she walked out into the station proper, where the artificial atmosphere recyclers hummed and ships prepared for departure, and she kept walking. Behind her, in the registration hall, chaos erupted. Every candidate started demanding explanations, complaining about unfair advantages, questioning the validity of her completion. Maya didn't care. She'd done what she came to do. She'd beaten their test, walked away smiling, and proved that humans belonged anywhere they damn well chose to be. Somewhere, in whatever afterlife existed, her brother was probably laughing. Maya hoped so. She'd done this for him. After all, she found a quiet observation deck and pulled out her communicator. Ambassador Kelso answered on the second ping. Maya, you're alive? Surprised? Honestly? Yes. How did it go? Passed in 17 minutes. Broke 4 out of 5 scenarios. Made the Coalition AI question its entire existence. The usual. Kelso was silent for a moment. Then he started laughing. Deep belly laughs that probably weren't diplomatic at all. You absolute maniac. You actually did it. Told you I would. The council is going to lose their minds. You just proved humans can handle anything they throw at us. Do you have any idea what this means? Maya looked out at the stars. The same stars her brother had loved. The same stars that had seen him die. It means they don't get to tell us no anymore, she said quietly. It means when they say something is impossible, we get to prove them wrong. It means humans are officially in the game now, whether they like it or not. What are you going to do next? Maya smiled, a real smile this time, not angry or bitter or cold. I'm going home. I'm going to visit Mom and Dad. Tell them Marcus would be proud. And then, she paused, thinking, then I'm going to train the next batch of humans who want to take the Crucible. Because if I can beat it, anyone can. They just need to know the secret. What secret? That the Coalition's tests are designed for people who follow rules. But humans? We were born to break them. She ended the call and stood there for a while longer, watching ships come and go, watching the galaxy continue spinning, indifferent to one human small victory. But it wasn't small. Not really. It was the beginning of something new. Something that started with one angry human, deciding that no was an acceptable answer. Something that would ripple outward through the galaxy, changing the rules for everyone who came after. Maya Chen walked away from Vex Station with her head held high, her brother's memory honored, and humanity's reputation forever changed. They'd said no human could pass. She finished the test in 17 minutes, broken every rule they had, and walked away smiling. And somewhere in the Coalition's vast bureaucracy, people were realizing that they'd just made a terrible mistake. They'd told humanity it couldn't do something. And if there was one thing humans were really, truly exceptional at, it was proving the impossible wrong.